Hello, everyone. This is Dwayne Rothman, and I am the Furious Wrestling Fan. And I am here to talk about the very first bit of WWE programming that I have watched in a couple months, and I'll explain that here in just a little bit. I have not been a huge fan of the WWE product lately, and it's actually turned me away from it as much as I haven't liked it. But again, I can't stay away. I am a fan at heart. I have been, always have been, probably always will be. So, I decided, you know what? I'm going to start this channel. I'm going to make my feelings known. And what better way to start than with one of the biggest shows, one of the big four that WWE does every single year, and that's Survivor Series. Now, Survivor Series, over the past couple years, has been billed as this one night a year where Raw and SmackDown compete against each other. I don't recall in the previous couple years of any title matches happening or anything like that, because the champions face the champions of either show. Yada yada. There was a couple title matches on this one, and I will get to them. But this year they included NXT into the mix, and boy, were they trying to put over NXT hard. It was an all-night endeavor. So again, I figure what better way to start than with my first video here on the channel being about 2019 Survivor Series. And again, this is the first thing that I've watched from WWE in quite some time. So I went into this with a fresh pair of eyes. I had no idea what they were doing. I'd see a little thing here and there. You know, you scroll through Facebook, social media, that kind of thing, and I see something occasionally here and there, but I wasn't really paying attention to it. So I had no idea what it is that they were actually doing on WWE programming. So, we're going to jump right in. Here it is, 2019 Survivor Series. So they start out, and I decided to watch pre-show and all. And immediately I realized why I hate the pre-show so much. They did have 3 matches on the pre-show, but good God, they had a 2-hour pre-show before they even got to the main show, which was roughly about 4 hours. So I've been watching this damn show for basically the last 6 hours. And oh, buddy. So I'm going to try to run right through this. I don't want this to take all night. So pre-show, we start out with a pretty amazing video package. That's one thing that WWE, I think, has always done a very good job of doing, and that's their video packages. Whoever's in charge of that, whoever puts them together, I think they do a very good job. And this video package was Becky, Bayley, and Shayna. All 3 respective women's champions. They were going to be facing each other on the night. It kind of already got me invested in what that match was going to be all about. Then we go to, was it Sam Roberts, I think his name is? I don't know where the hell he came from. I know he's been there on these pre-shows a lot. I think on every single damn one for the past, even couple years now. But whoever the hell this guy is, he just needs to disappear. I don't even like looking at his face. I don't want to hear his voice. He doesn't provide anything in the show that I remotely give a damn about. All he does is take up time and space. Sam Roberts needs to fucking disappear. So then we go to the video package for Rey Mysterio and Blockhead, and that damn near put me to sleep. So I'm already, kind of fed up with this already. They had the in the package, they had the stupid thing with Cain Velasquez, I don't give a shit. Goodbye, get the hell out. Apparently all of that was throwaway shit. None of it even matters. So finally we get a promo from Paul Heyman, and say what you will about Paul Heyman, but I always enjoy his promo work, even though he is talking about block. And don't correct me, I know what I'm saying. It's block. End of story. That's just what it is. I'll get to that. I'll touch more on that here in a little bit. So, a decent promo from Heyman. I always enjoy listening to his promo work. I think he's one of the best. I think he's been one of the best for quite some time. Nobody delivers a promo quite like Paul Heyman does, no matter what it is that he's talking about. So, finally, they bring up the Cruiserweight title. And they bill it as the NXT Cruiserweight title. And again, I know I haven't been watching in quite some time, but when the hell did the Cruiserweight title just go over to NXT? Does this mean 205 Live is no longer a thing? I wasn't about to go and look that information up because I don't really care enough. It just, I don't know. I wasn't quite expecting that. It's the NXT Cruiserweight title now. Again, I have no idea when that happened. But when I say that they were talking about NXT and tried to build that up like a mofo all night long, well, it starts here because now that they talk about the Cruiserweight title, we get a recap on War Games. Now, I was completely unaware that War Games was going on. I spent all day yesterday, as War Games was going on, to set up the channel and to set up the Facebook page for the channel and that sort of thing. I did not know NXT War Games was going on. I can't guarantee I would have necessarily watched it anyway. And already I get irritated because here it is. It is War Games, and I had the same beef about War Games last year. They're going to bring in War Games, a WCW/NWA classic, however you want to think about it. And just like a lot of things that WWE does, they screw it all up. Okay? I don't know the exact rules of War Games, if it has changed any from this year to last year. But last year, they bring War Games in, and the first thing I noticed, there's no top on the cage. How is it War Games when there's no top on the cage? I could have tried to look past that, with the exception of the fact that there was the rule that if you escaped the cage, I believe it was you and your entire team was disqualified from the match. So, I feel like that's a pretty stupid rule. If you put a top on the damn cage, you wouldn't have to have that rule. I thought the whole point of War Games is to keep everybody enclosed within the cage. If you don't want people escaping the cage, put a fucking top on the cage. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So, even if I would have knew War Games was going on, I probably wouldn't have watched it anyways because the entire NXT WWE version of War Games, it's not War Games. Sorry, it just isn't. So, apparently, Kevin Owens went to NXT, and he was a part of one of the teams during the War Games match. Once again, Sam Roberts, he's talking like he knows something. He has no idea what he's talking about, and I cringed at hearing his voice. He just needs to disappear and get the hell off my screen. So, they finally named the NXT team, because apparently that was unknown at the time, for the 5-on-5-on-5 Survivor Series match. So the NXT team would then be Damian Priest, Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, Tommaso Ciampa, and Walter. So, you got that. So we move on from there, and again, they're talking NXT. They're talking NXT. They're talking NXT. They're building up NXT. It's NXT, NXT, NXT. I thought I was watching WWE Survivor Series, and I know that NXT was going to be there. And I know why all this is going on, mind you. I know that they're having this war with AEW. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to tell you, it is no war. There is no war here. Okay? I know that... And I was guilty of it, too. When the talk about AEW starting up, I was excited about the announcement. I've been wanting another wrestling product as much as anybody else until I saw AEW. And not only is it not any good, most of it is not any good. There's a couple little things. That's a story for another day. But we'll talk about this being this Wednesday night war between AEW and NXT. It is no war. It's not like back in the olden days when if one product wasn't quite tip-top shape, the other was going to go out of business. That's not going to happen here. The only one that may go out of business is AEW if Tony Khan or whoever's in charge of all this, I believe is Tony Khan. I may have that crossed. I don't know. I don't care. But whoever's funding this whole thing and they realize that everything that they're doing with all of these people makes no sense and it's really, really dumb. The only one that may go out of business is AEW, but WWE is not going to go out of business. This isn't a fight for survival for WWE, okay? They're too big. They're too... they've expanded globally all over the place. They're doing stuff in Saudi Arabia. They got NXT UK. They got Raw, NXT, SmackDown. They're just everywhere. This is no war. Okay? There's even a website that I had seen where they were keeping score. And at this point, as I record this, it's like NXT has won 7. Or, excuse me, AEW has won 7, NXT has won 1. That shouldn't even matter. That has no bearing on anything. Because, again, it is not a war. WWE is not going anywhere. They have really nothing to lose. They're too big to fail. Another story for yet another day. It's not a war. But, again, to my point, they're doing all this stuff with NXT and trying to build it up and introduce all these people because they are at war with AEW. Now, WWE has basically a limitless talent pool. So when you're talking AEW against NXT, it's not that at all. It's AEW against all of WWE. There's no comparison as far as talent pool. Their entire roster is too big. And so I don't know why they feel the need to build up NXT the way that they are, with the exception of the fact that before this war, they were considered their developmental, I suppose. So they're just bringing them up to the main roster. So again, I understand why it's happening. It's not really, I don't think, completely necessary, but I understand why it's happening. So, we get to the first match of the night and the first match on the pre-show. And, it's a tag team battle royal. And already, I'm not looking forward to this. I am not a fan of big multi-man matches, so this was probably a bad show to pay attention to for my first video for the channel, because everything was multi-man or multi-women. It was too much. But this tag... I'm not a big fan of battle royals to begin with, because there's too many people, nobody can get anything in. But now it's a tag team battle royal. There was way too many people, and there was no way I could keep track of all of their names. Half of them I've never heard or seen before. A bunch of them from NXT in particular, so forgive me. I don't know hardly any of these damn people, so I don't remember any of their names. I don't remember much from it except it being a complete cluster. There wasn't a whole lot to really talk about. It's a battle royal. Not a whole lot happens. They tease a lot of the going over the top rope and the feet touching the floor. It's teased. People come back in. Yada yada. Same-o, same-o. A guy, Otis, from Heavy Machinery, decides he's going to do the worm, which I thought was not even comical. It had no business even being in there. They had no business doing it. It looked horrible. It looked silly. That's basically the only thing I even remember about this battle royal, with the exception of Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode win the whole thing. Raw wins the match. Bore. Didn't care. I really didn't care. We jump right from that to the second match of the pre-show and the second match of the night. It is the NXT Cruiserweight title. Kalisto, SmackDown. Akira Tozawa, Raw. Lio Rush from NXT, I guess. The only thing I knew about Lio Rush is when he was managing Bobby Lashley. Apparently that's been done and over with for a while. But he's the Cruiserweight champ. So, they come out, and again, triple threat. Kalisto, he does some pretty nifty stuff. He did a nice little spot in the ropes. He was able to cut one guy off. I forget who now. It doesn't even matter. He cut one guy off by giving him a nice kick to the face and then a little lucha thing off the top rope. The action was quick, fast-paced, as to be expected with a cruiserweight match. I really didn't expect anything less. There was a triple move from the top rope, which really puzzled me. I had no idea if it was supposed to be an offensive move, a defensive move. I had no idea who was in control of this thing. It literally looked to me like these guys literally just jumped off the top rope. There really wasn't, it didn't seem to me any... I couldn't really tell what was supposed to be happening with that. So there was a nifty little cover. Akira Tozawa with a bridging German suplex. Kalisto stomps on his stomach, rolls up Lio Rush. I felt that the referee kind of screwed that up because by my count, Kalisto was able to get a 3. He had him pinned long enough. He got a 2 count. Referee, I don't think, was in position or wasn't paying attention. You get a big senton from Akira Tozawa. It looked beautiful. I liked that quite a bit. But in the end, Lio Rush retains the NXT Cruiserweight title. It was a decent match, given who is in it. I don't have a thing against any of these guys. They did Cruiserweight shit, and they did it well. It was decent. Nothing really too bad to say about that. We do go to a promo with the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, The New Day, Big E, and Kofi Kingston. And I was unaware that they had won the SmackDown Tag titles. I have no idea when that happened. But to me, it felt like it almost... The first thing I thought, my first thing to come to mind, I saw Kofi with that tag team title, and I thought, oh, well, I don't know, maybe somebody backstage feels bad about how badly they screwed Kofi for the WWE title after he put in months and months of hard work as the champion, several years of hard work before that just to get to that spot, and they buried him completely. So here's a consolation prize. Do with it what you will. I don't know. It just, whatever. So, but we go to that as the next match. All 3 tag team champions. The New Day from SmackDown, the Viking Raiders from Raw, and the Undisputed Era from NXT. New Day, they come out, they did their shtick that's worked for several years now. Okay. The Undisputed Era, apparently a part of this big NXT War Games match, but it looked like they hadn't been phased, and that's a running thing that I'll touch on again here in a little bit. But then the Viking Raiders come out. I seen a little bit of them when they were in NXT as the War Raiders. These guys, the Viking Raiders, look like destroyers. They have a badass look. They look like they can just walk in there and just start destroying anybody in their path. So they look dominant just from first glance. Enjoyed that quite a bit. I'd like to see, I do want to see a little bit more of the Viking Raiders. But here it is, the first, besides the Battle Royal, the first multi-man match that isn't just a regular triple threat. It's a triple threat tag team match, and there's 3 legal men. I don't recall that being a thing before. I recall if there's 3 teams, there's 2 legal men, and you'd be able to tag basically anybody at any time. I didn't understand the 3 legal men right from the get-go, 1 from each team. Again, my main problem with multi-man matches is that nobody gets a chance to really shine. Nobody gets a chance to really put in their stuff. It's chaos. And so tag team triple threat, and there's 3 legal men. And then shortly after the match begins, it's complete and utter chaos. There's no tags. There's people in and out. I can't follow the damn thing. The Viking Raiders do some pretty neat stuff for big guys. The one in particular, I forget it was Eric and Ivar, I believe, and I think Ivar's the big long-haired guy. Again, I haven't been paying attention. I don't really truly know these guys. It's hard for me to know and pay attention to all these damn names. In the Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, I think those were the 2 guys. I thought the Viking Raiders looked pretty decent. Again, big guys doing some stuff that I didn't expect out of people their size. I was fairly impressed. The Viking Raiders and the Undisputed Era, they have some back and forth throughout the match. It seemed like for a lot of the match, the New Day wasn't even a factor. Ivar, like I was talking about, doing stuff that I did not expect. He does the whole the upside down springboard into the ropes back elbow. That kind of blew my mind. Was not expecting that, and I'm sure it's something that's been done before, and I'm sure that it's probably old news to a lot of people, but this is probably the first time I've ever even seen, this guy do this. I've seen them, but I don't remember seeing him do this. But essentially at the very end, the Viking Raiders win. And it was to me, it was complete total chaos. It was hard to follow. But with 6 guys, and in this triple threat, 3 guys legal, no tags, I personally felt that I think they did the best they could with the environment that they were given. But I don't think anybody, with the exception of a couple of the spots that the Raiders did, I don't think anybody really truly stand out. I don't really know how you could. There it was. Moving on. By this point, I was completely done and fed up with the pre-show. I was hoping it would just end already. An hour and a half into this pre-show, and they have these 3 matches. And I'm sick of the pre-show. I'm just sick of it. Their panel. I've never understood the pre-show for a WWE event, period, anyways. To me, it makes no sense. I don't even understand why it's there. But they continue to talk for yet another half hour before the main show actually starts. But it's like, okay, a 1 hour pre-show is bad enough. 2 hour pre-show, it's like enough is enough. So finally we get to the main show. Now that we finally get to the main show, and we start out with the Women's Survivor Series match. And, the Survivor Series match, I understand. I know that the Survivor Series match has been a staple of Survivor Series since the very first one. I get it. It's just something that's always been a thing, probably always will. But it was usually, at least in the past several years, a 5-on-5. One team of 5 against another team of 5. And now that we have the 3 brands, 15, not just this one, the men's too, but 15 women in this match. And already, again, even with the traditional Survivor Series matches, and I'm gonna say this over and over again, guys, too many people. It's too much of a cluster. Nobody can get anything in. Well, now we have 15. So, SmackDown, Lacey Evans, Sasha Banks, Dana Brooke, Carmella, Nikki Cross. Raw, Charlotte Flair, Sarah Logan, Asuka, Kairi Sane, Natalya. NXT, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Toni Storm, Candice LeRae, Io Shirai. And again, apparently, they also had a women's War Games. And they talk about it. They sell it on commentary, like crazy, that most of these women were a part of the War Games match. But again, it seems like it was a non-factor. It's like it never happened. They were raring to go. And You would think that any of these NXT performers that would take, part in any of these War Games matches or any match on the NXT show the night before would show a little signs of fatigue or something. Nah, just a non-issue. So, again, the 3 legal women in the ring. I don't even remember exactly how the thing starts. I was already kind of tuning out because I already seen how this was going. But we did get a little feature between Io Shirai and Kairi Sane. And I did start to get a little more invested just because of this, because I know that Kairi and Io were a tag team in NXT before Kairi came up to the main roster, which I guess it's just all the main roster now. Why the hell not? So they had a little thing together, which was kind of neat. I do enjoy watching both of those ladies work. But again, very shortly thereafter, there's no tags. The whole thing breaks down. This one comes in, does something. This one comes in, does something. This one comes in, does something. I can't keep track of it all. It's too chaotic. At one point, once all that chaos subsides, we get Candice LeRae and Io Shirai laying on the outside like they're injured. They're being carried off to the back, and all of a sudden NXT is down 2 women. It's 3 against 5 for Raw, 5 for SmackDown. It's looking grim for NXT, right? But when this is all going on, the match just stops. They went from Io and Kairi to complete and utter chaos where everybody's doing everything at all times. Just complete chaos to a complete stop. I felt like it whatever momentum may have been there in this clusterfuck of a match, it completely stopped. Everything stopped. Everything died. So they're all, all of them, with the exception of the 3 NXT ladies, all the ones from SmackDown, all the ones from Raw, which most of them were all from NXT, mind you. You're supposed to forget that fact. They're all waving like, oh, goodbye, thanks for coming, before they can finally get the match back underway. To me, it really just killed it. It really wasn't all that spectacular to begin with, but they killed whatever they did have. So there was a point where Bianca Belair was in the ring with somebody, don't even matter, but Asuka is on the far side of the ring from the hard cam. And Belair does some kind of spring into the ropes, and I watch Asuka literally step over just to get in the way to take a bump. It's not like it was. It looked way too staged. Way too staged. It wasn't like she just happened to be standing there and, it just kind of happened. No, she literally sidestepped into it, and it looked so out of place, and it just looked dumb. So, at one point, Charlotte's in the ring, and I believe it's Carmella. She goes to hit natural selection. She does it from the side. It looks terrible. It looks completely like crap. Finally, you get a little dissension against Charlotte and Asuka from Team Raw. And finally, Asuka steps in, spits the mist in Charlotte's face. And I know that that's something that Asuka's been doing lately. I've seen little clips of it. I've been a big fan of Asuka since she was in NXT. So I do try to pay attention to her a little bit. And I kind of know what's going on there. So the mist to Charlotte. And then Asuka just leaves. Asuka just walks away. She was never eliminated. She just walked off. Io and Candice, they end up coming back. We're down to 3 women. I believe it was Sasha, Natalya, and Rhea Ripley. One from each show. And I think Natalya was eliminated by Sasha Banks, and then here comes Io and Candice, and they're just fine. Apparently, they were just playing possum, right? So, and apparently they're the heels in the matter. So they come out and essentially NXT wins with Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, and Candice LeRae standing tall. Go NXT. So, I'm thinking, again, they're trying to play NXT off as coming up as this up-and-coming brand, basically, and they're wanting to prove themselves, and they completely heel for the finish. Maybe something going on with that. I don't necessarily know, but wasn't a big fan of the ending, necessarily. And to be quite honest with you, I think the match is still going. As I talk about this, and in even the coming weeks, coming months, whatever, I think this match is still going on. This match never, to me, in my eyes, never officially ended because Asuka was never eliminated. So how do you say that the NXT women won the match when there's, as far as I'm concerned, still technically one of the women were never eliminated? And so, again, I think it was as entertaining as it could possibly be. 15 women in one match, and it's supposed to be a team effort, and not a big fan of the finish, and as far as I'm concerned, it's still ongoing. There it be. We get a little promo from Kevin Owens. Never been the biggest fan of Kevin Owens, but again, he was on the NXT show as one of the teams in the War Games match. There's a little dissension between Owens and Rollins, and so a little decent promo thing, and back and forth between them. I didn't think that was too bad. So then we go to the next match, triple threat. Shinsuke Nakamura, the IC champ from SmackDown. Roderick Strong, the North American champ from NXT. And AJ Styles, the United States champ from Raw. Apparently Sami Zayn is, I don't know, a manager or something of Shinsuke Nakamura. Didn't really know. Kind of don't care. Apparently they had debuted a new IC title on the previous SmackDown. And just for a second, I'll touch on that. The only thing I can say about the new IC title is thank God that it's just not another rehash of all the other damn belts. They all look the fucking same. So at least, if they're going to at least introduce a new version of the IC title, at least it's different. I don't necessarily know if I could consider it a great design or a terrible design. It's kind of but at least it's different. At least it'll stand out a little bit. Nakamura's entrance, typical Shinsuke stuff, but Sami Zayn, all I noticed, I couldn't pay attention to Shinsuke, even though he's supposed to be the one in the match, because Sami Zayn standing behind him acting like a total goof. I don't know what the hell he was doing. The other two finally get in the ring. We start off and get another triple threat match, multi-man match. It was a slower start. They really kind of slowed things down. I don't know exactly what I was expecting per se. But it was a slower start than I guess I was expecting. I wasn't expecting to be a complete 100% or 100 mile an hour let's go right off the get, but it was a little slower to me than I was expecting. Roderick Strong, he was looking good throughout the match. Again, still putting over the NXT guys. Got to do that again, even though he was in the War Games match. Not a lot of fatigue, still raring to go. I felt that was just awkward. That's just my view on it, There was a neat spot, monkey flip into a nice kick. The guy getting monkey flip, lands on his feet, gets kicked in the face afterwards. I thought that was kind of a neat little spot. I will say that this was one of the only matches, if not maybe even the only match, that it did look like all three of the guys were at least getting their stuff in. But it started to, as like all these matches, that's one thing that I didn't touch on. Every single match took forever. Obviously, with 15 women in the Survivor Series match, you got 15 women in there. It's going to take forever. Okay, but it still took way too damn long. The other matches took a while. This one started to go way too long, in my opinion. But it probably had to in order to get the stuff in that they wanted to, so at least they got most of their stuff in, so I guess you got that going for it. But at the very end, Roderick Strong wins. AJ Styles with a phenomenal forearm. And Roderick Strong chucks AJ Styles out the ring, goes for the cover, gets it, wins. So NXT goes over yet again. So at this point, they are really putting NXT on a pedestal at this point already. It was a decent match, again, for a triple threat match. I guess it was decent. They did an all right job. It was one of the better matches I thought of the show. So, there you go. We go backstage to The Miz and Daniel Bryan, and all I can say about that little backstage thing is, don't care. I don't care. I've never been a big fan of Daniel Bryan to begin with. I absolutely hate The Miz. Always have, always will. Apparently they had a little thing on SmackDown where there was one of those Miz TV stupid things trying to, get the Daniel Bryan, Bray Wyatt, Fiend match, doing something. For whatever reason, The Miz felt like he had to show his face. Don't care. And not only that, it was a boring segment too. There was nothing about that segment that I felt that really, I don't know, it didn't give anything to anything. It just was there, and I could have done without it. So now we come to, now mind you, NXT has just won the previous two matches, the women's Survivor Series match and the Nakamura style strong match. NXT has gone over on both, and now we get the NXT title match. And again, I know that they're trying to build up NXT, and to me, it was getting a little old already by this point. But again, I understand why they're doing it. They got an audience that may not watch NXT, and they're putting all these NXT guys and gals, on one of the biggest pay-per-views that they do every year, hopefully and most likely to try to garner an audience that may not watch NXT, to therefore boost their ratings in this war. So I get it. But luckily this match I liked for the most part. I don't know about anybody else, but my network, the WWE network, was really getting jumpy at this point and spotty. It was it would jump forward a second and it drop back a second, and that was getting fairly annoying. It continued that for the rest of the night too, by the way. Again, they mention Adam Cole, who is the NXT champ. The fact that he was in the War Games took this huge bump, I guess, off the top of the cage. From Tommaso Ciampa to end the War Games match, apparently. And he is the only one that looks like he's selling the previous night. He's got his ribs taped up. He's got a like a brace or a cast or something on his hand. He's selling the rib injury. So he actually looked like he was in a war. And so I could believe that. I thought all the other NXT people should have been doing the same thing. Nonetheless, Pete Dunne, the Bruiserweight, is the challenger. I like the fact that they basically started the match with a little bit of chain wrestling, which, thank God, we finally got a little bit of that, because I was beginning to think that that was no longer a thing. They didn't do it for very long, but some of my favorite matches ever, have, chain wrestling, at least in the start, and, they work the holds, and, they go back and forth, so a little bit of nice chain wrestling. I thought it was a nice little touch. Again, they were, and Pete Dunne also selling a knee injury. So, because I guess he was part of a triple threat match to gain a title match at the War Games event against Adam Cole for the title at this show. So, a knee injury for Pete Dunne, and the ribs and the hand for Adam Cole. They're both selling their injuries. So, thank God for that. I could at least believe that, they've already wrestled once. They've both been through some, they've both been through something the previous night. I could get behind that. But even with the selling of the injuries, there was no how to put this? There was no shortage of wrestling in this wrestling match. It's not like it was overly slow or not enough action because of the injuries, but they incorporated into the match, and I loved that. I thought that's exactly how that should have been done. Very hard hitting. A lot of strikes. They were doing some really neat maneuvers. They were doing some good stuff. Pete Dunne hits the finisher. I don't recall what he called it. I'm sorry, but I haven't watched a lot of Pete Dunne. I've seen a match or two of his at one point when he was NXT UK champion. But he hits the finisher and a false finish. Okay, so Adam Cole still fighting through the pain, fighting through the injuries, a fighting champion, okay. We get the moonsault super kick. Pete Dunne, moonsault. Adam Cole, super kick to the face. As Pete Dunne is upside down. Love that spot. I've seen him do it with Ricochet once. I loved it then. Loved it this time too. But then we get another false finish. And already, at this point, I'm like, okay, to me, you could have ended the match right there. So they're going to do some more stuff. But at this point, just like everything else, it started to go too long. And I'm going to say, this isn't just a WWE problem. This is not just a AEW problem. It seems as though, to me, that this is an industry-wide problem with all these matches go too damn long. A false finish. 2 false finishes even. Like one for either guy or something or whatever. Okay, it gets the people, I've seen it. I was watching it. People almost jumping out of their seats. They're into it. I was into it myself, but after the second false finish and they start doing even more stuff, like they hadn't just been beating each other to death for the last however long and had these other matches the previous night, I'm thinking at this point, okay, it's getting to be a little much, So, Adam Cole hits the Panama Sunrise, essentially the Canadian Destroyer, on the apron on Pete Dunne. They both fall to the floor. Okay, they start getting counted out. Adam Cole gets back in. Pete Dunne looks like I hate this. Okay? I've always hated it. I will continue to hate it. If you're going to get back into the ring at the very last moment, you can do that. But don't stand almost back to the damn barricade and as soon as the referee hits 9, get a burst of energy and jump back into the ring. I hate that. If you're going to pull yourself up, you're going to scratch and claw your way back up, you grab that bottom rope and you struggle and you get back in the ring at the very last moment, okay. But when you stand up at 8, you stand there groggy for that extra second, they hit 9 and you just dash back into the ring. It looks dumb. It looks stupid. I've never liked that. I've always hated it. So anyway, Pete Dunne. He jumps back in the ring at the last moment, 9 count, and it is immediately met with a super kick to the face and another false finish. At this point, I'm wanting it to end now. I'm starting to think that if they go too much longer, I already think that they've went too long, but if they would have went any longer, they would have, in my opinion, damaged what they had already accomplished throughout this match. They had a great match. They were having an awesome match. They were telling a good story even with the injuries and all that, and it was just going too long. Everything goes too damn long. With the false finish, if the moonsault super kick wasn't going to be the finish, Pete Dunne beating the count at the last second, getting super kicked in the face, that should have been the finish right there. That should have been it. And again, it wasn't. Another false finish. So, Pete Dunne grabs the fingers, goes to snap the fingers of Adam Cole, goes for the finish again, Pete Dunne goes for his finisher again. It gets reversed into the Panama Sunrise. And finally, the pinfall. Cole retains. And again, I say the super kick after the near count out should have been the finish. The snapping of the fingers, it wasn't later incorporated into the match. If they would have done that earlier in the match, which I think he did some stuff with manipulating the fingers and the joints and that kind of thing, but if they would have done that earlier, it would have made sense. It made no sense there. It made no sense at that point in the match. It didn't do anything. It didn't lend itself to anything else leading further into the match. There was no point in that little spot being there. The reversal of the one finisher into the other finisher, that was a neat spot. And I would have been okay with that being the finish if they would have done it earlier without the other 500,000 false finishes. I don't remember how many there were, but that would have been fine. But it should have happened earlier. And again, I thought there was 2 other times it could have ended that match. Still, even with that being said, even though it was a little long, because of the in-ring work from both Pete Dunne and from Adam Cole, the injury selling, the getting a bunch of their stuff in, even with a couple of the false finishes, I thought that they did a phenomenal job. I thought that this was easily the best match of the night. And honestly, for NXT, if they're trying to build up their NXT program to go to war with AEW, this is the match that if there was a lot of people either in that audience or watching this pay-per-view that don't watch NXT, after seeing that match, I think that I'd want to watch NXT. And I actually might watch. I haven't watched NXT in a long time. I haven't cared. But I'm a fan of Adam Cole after that. I dare to say that I wouldn't mind seeing a little more Pete Dunne after that. This is the match that I think NXT and WWE needed to happen for the NXT brand in order for other people to tune in and watch NXT. And if the ratings for NXT continue to go up from this point going forward on Wednesday nights, I would think that match right there would have a lot to do with the rise in the ratings, because people are going to want to see more of that. So now we go to the next match, and they give us a little another little package between The Fiend and Daniel Bryan. And to me, even with their package to tell me what exactly their little feud is, or their program, whatever, it didn't do it for me. After seeing that package, I really didn't care. I did want to see The Fiend. I've always had a love for these strange, dark, demented, outwardly, characters. The Undertaker, my absolute favorite, specifically Ministry of Darkness Undertaker. I've always liked guys like Vampiro. I liked the old school, mid-90s Mankind, with the brown, the just complete wild man. Kane, old school, late 90s Kane. I've always loved, characters like that. There's something about them that just draws me in. So I want to see The Fiend. I don't give a damn about seeing Daniel Bryan. I've never been a big fan of Daniel Bryan. He does decent work. It's not like he's terrible. I just don't care. There's nothing about him that makes me want to watch him. I don't know exactly what they're doing with Daniel Bryan. It seems to me that I guess he's having a thing where the people want him to go back to the yes man, the yes movement, and all this stuff. That's been long played out, and I hated it even then, but the fans apparently want him to go back to that, and Daniel Bryan, I guess, doesn't want to go back to that, and so he's conflicted, and I think maybe this is the only reason that putting The Fiend and Daniel Bryan together for a match partially makes sense, because that seems like that's kind of the Fiend's MO is to play on the weaknesses of others, so I can get that. I can get behind that. That just kind of goes with the gimmick, and I like it. So we get the actual match. Daniel Bryan comes to the ring, and it just felt blah. You know, back when, several years ago, you'd have that yes thing, people are going absolutely apeshit, bullshit, nuts. He just kind of walks to the ring, he's got his arms out, but he's just kind of like, and? You're Daniel Bryan, okay, cool, whatever. It just seemed, there was nothing to it, it was bleh. But then the Fiend comes out, and he's got that cool-ass entrance. You know, again, with characters like his, the entrances, just the presence of characters like that is a big thing. I loved the entrance. Was a big fan of that. But right off the bat, and apparently this has been a running thing, going by some of the package that they gave, apparently it's a running thing where they have the red light kind of just covering the arena while the Fiend is in the ring having his match. I'll tell you right now, I hate it. I absolutely hate the red light. I know that they had done that for Kane way back then. At the beginning of his run, I hated it then. You know, my eyes can't, I don't think, truly focus on the match itself, the characters, anything with this red light. To me, it's very distracting. I hate it. I don't like it at all. And I'll touch back on that in a second. But the red light, I hated. The body language of the Fiend, I love it. I love the entrance. I love the body language. I'm loving the Fiend character. I really am. I don't necessarily care for the Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt. I guess it adds a dimension to the character, but I could care less about Firefly Bray Wyatt. I just want to see Fiend Bray Wyatt. The only thing that there's only one thing that I can nitpick about the Fiend, and that's the attire, the clothing. The mask is badass. The mask is so damn cool. The dreads coming down, covering the mask. The mask has this look of, this scarred human being, but it's got, I noticed the big buckles in the back, and there's something about the mask I absolutely love. But the striped tights or striped pants, I don't get. I wish he would do, I don't even care if they were just a single color. I hate the stripes. I hate the striped pants. I hate it. To me, that's the only thing that kind of makes the Fiend look it doesn't make him look completely silly, because the rest of it is still awesome. It's just, I wish he'd change that. He had a spot, the Fiend. He did the senton splash and immediately, turns over to stalk his prey, the fallen Daniel Bryan, and that's that body language I was talking about. I thoroughly love that. It was deranged. It was like mid-90s Mankind-like, completely deranged, and I really enjoyed that. Daniel Bryan seemed like he was just getting destroyed through most of this match. Seemed pretty one-sided for the most part. Daniel Bryan does start getting some offense, but it is your typical Daniel Bryan shtick. It's always worked for him in the past, I guess. And I'm not necessarily expecting him to change up everything now, but again, it didn't do anything for me. Even the commentary, are putting the Fiend over like he isn't human. So I think they're, at least if I'm seeing anybody getting, somewhat of a push where, you know, everybody's believing in the character and really trying to push the character and you know, really putting a spotlight on a character. It is The Fiend, and I think it should be. You know, if they were going to do it half-assed, they would have ruined it already. They almost did, by the sound of things. Daniel Bryan, you know, he goes in the corner, does the whole yes thing. I don't know if that means he's going back to that. The people, once again, going apeshit nuts. I don't get it. Goes for the running knee. We get a false finish. You know, Daniel Bryan tries to continue the offense, but we get this like choke slam mandible claw combination thing, which I think I enjoy. Obviously, Mankind Mick Foley is known for the mandible claw. I liked the little, almost like little, just take him down, almost like a little choke slam aspect of it. I thought that was a nice little touch. But essentially, mandible claw. And Bray Wyatt is your winner, retains the Universal title. And he walks back up the ramp. They turn the red light off. And that right there is why I hate the red light. You see the colors of the mask. You know, you really get to see, I think just the appearance of the Fiend is a lot clearer. And I can really see it without that stupid red light on. I hope that the red light thing disappears in the future because, you know, without the red light, you can really focus on the look of the Fiend. So, you know, there you have that. We get a little backstage promo from Rey Mysterio. You know, he's got a little passion in there. You know, I've always been a fan of Rey Mysterio. I've always liked his stuff. You know, so his promo was all right. You know, I don't really have anything really much to say about that. Then we got the men's Survivor Series match. And once again, 15 guys. Because, of course, you got to have Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. So, Raw, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, Ricochet, Drew McIntyre. SmackDown, Roman Reigns, Mustafa Ali, Braun Strowman, Baron Corbin, and Shorty G. I feel sorry for him. I feel like they've completely shot him in the foot. NXT, Walter, Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, Tommaso Ciampa, Damian Priest. Again, just like with the other ones, you get the 3-man start. You know, after the start, you get the big guys in the ring. So then the crowd comes alive a little bit. So you had Braun Strowman, you had I believe it was Walter and Drew McIntyre, the 3 big guys, and there was a standoff. The people kind of come alive for that. Like there was really going to be something happening there. But shortly thereafter, you get a Claymore kick by Drew McIntyre to Walter, which Walter is the only champion in this match. He is the NXT UK champ. And Walter is eliminated just like that. And the people behind Walter got, you know, the chants. You know, you can tell that he was the fan favorite of, I think, the entire match. Even with the Raw and SmackDown guys, Walter was the guy. And he's the first one to be eliminated in pretty quick fashion. The fans are absolutely pissed. And, you know, they even we get a bullshit chant in there. I haven't seen, I've maybe seen one Walter match, maybe. So I haven't seen enough of his stuff to really judge Walter individually. But I can tell that people were not happy about that. The pace picks up quite a bit after that when you get, I'm calling him Chad Gable. Sorry, I'm not going with the Shorty G thing. I can't do it. I can't take that seriously. I can't do it. So Gable, we'll at least just go with Gable. Gable and Ricochet get in the ring. The pace quickens. You know, the smaller guys really pick it up. You get dissension within the SmackDown team. which at this point, I'm over. I'm over the dissension angle. We saw it in the women's match with the Raw team. And for the last several Survivor Series, in these Survivor Series matches, there's some type of dissension amongst one of the teams. It's a constant thing. You've already seen it once in this show. I didn't really feel that it necessary in this one, so I'm kind of over that. Kevin Owens was looking good. Haven't seen a lot of Kevin Owens recently. Again, was never the biggest fan of Kevin Owens, but he always did some decent stuff, so he was looking good here. We get a standoff between Tommaso Ciampa and Randy Orton. It looked like just with the standoff, it looks like that could be a match that we could see in the future, and I wouldn't mind watching it. Randy Orton is Randy Orton, pretty much a legend at this point. Always does pretty decent in-ring stuff. Tommaso Ciampa, I've seen a bunch of his stuff, and I think he's very good in the ring too. So that might be something. The only thing I have about the standoff is just like in the women's match, you have the standoff between Orton and Tommaso Ciampa, and everything dies. Everything dies again. Everything just ceases to exist. Everything just stops. So same thing within the women's match. It seemed as though that whatever they had going, it just died. So. We get a spot shortly after that. Excuse me, I had to read my notes here for a second. There was so much stuff to try to remember. But we get the shtick of Braun Strowman, the runaway freight train, running around the ring, and he clears out like 3 guys as he runs around the entire ring. Okay, I guess that's fine. It's something that he does. But then he goes to run around the ring again, and he completely runs right by Seth Rollins. I thought that was a little odd. If he had a target in mind, I don't understand why he just wouldn't have ran through Seth Rollins again. To me, that looked out of place. That was kind of, I was like, well, why didn't you hit that guy? It just, I don't know. It just seemed out of place. But essentially, you get a big crossbody tackle thing from Keith Lee to stop Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman gets eliminated by countout. And I thought that was weak. I thought that you had an opportunity there to, even if it took a Raw guy and an NXT guy to hold him down to the mat or something, there, to make somebody else look good. The countout, the countout elimination. I just thought it was weak. I thought that I thought it was lazy. They could have done something different. Didn't like that at all. Again, there's just chaos everywhere. Ali does a dive once, got a bunch of guys out on the floor. You see dissension amongst the SmackDown team yet again. I think, if I remember correctly, Ali was eliminated because of this. The dissension between Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns. The dissension angle has been played out. We get a little 2/3 Shield reunion here going on when you got the sole members left of Team Raw and Team SmackDown being Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. It looked like you were going to get the old school Shield powerbomb through the table. That gets interrupted, so there was a little bit of teamwork there between the two for a minute. By this point, I think I about fell asleep. Because by this point, if I would have been timing it, I probably would have even been more shocked. But it was taking forever. It was going on for ages. It felt like an eternity had gone by. I think I may have even celebrated a birthday in there somewhere. Keith Lee, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins are your final 3 guys. Keith Lee, I've never seen before this. But he was looking good. I will say that Keith Lee was doing some good stuff. for a big guy his size, I at first I wanted to even compare it to a Vader or a Bam Bam Bigelow, but I'll have to say that I think that he looks even better than, say, those guys. He was doing some really athletic stuff for a guy his size, so I wouldn't mind seeing some more Keith Lee, see what he could actually do. We get I believe Seth Rollins actually even got eliminated there at one point, and it's down to Roman Reigns and Keith Lee. We get a pinfall where I am convinced the referee counted the 3. I think everybody in the audience believed that the referee counted the 3, but he tells I believe it was, I actually don't even remember who was pinning who, to be quite honest with you. I was kind of fading in and out, but I was pretty sure that, there was a 3 count there. Keith Lee hits this big power bomb. It's a false finish, but we get a spear from Roman Reigns, and you get the win. So SmackDown gets a win here with Roman Reigns being the sole survivor for Team SmackDown. And you get a little show of respect there from Roman Reigns and Keith Lee. I like that. That was a nice little touch. Kind of give a little nod to an up and coming guy from a main star like Roman Reigns. So that was fine. But at that point, I was like, thank God it's over, because it, again, like everything else, it went just too damn long. So, moving on, you get a promo from Becky Lynch. Was okay, I guess. It was a thing. We go to the WWE title match. Blockhead and Rey Mysterio. Again, don't correct me. I know what his name is. I hate him. I hate Blockhead, and I'm going to try to do everything in my power to never actually even acknowledge what he's actually called. I can't stand him. I don't ever want to see him on my television ever again. And if it weren't for the sole fact, that I've been a fan of Rey Mysterio, I didn't even care about this story so much. I really didn't. The whole Cain Velasquez thing, Rey's son Dominic getting involved, I don't care about any of that. But the reason I actually stopped watching it's been several months, again, this is the first thing I've watched in quite a while, is I was at work and I read something on social media that Kofi was absolutely squashed in 9 seconds. And at that point, instead of just being the furious wrestling fan, I basically considered myself the former wrestling fan. I'd wipe my hands of it at that point. I said, if that's how you're going to treat somebody that has been around as long as he has and put in the amount of work that he has and the work that he had put in since being champion, and that's how you're going to do him, the hell with that. I don't care anymore. I stopped watching. And so that is the sole reason. Shouldn't say the sole reason. That is one of the main reasons I stopped watching. So we get to this damn match, and I'm only going to touch on a couple little things because I'm not going to give Blockhead the time of day. So Rey Mysterio comes out. He's got his gear based on the new Joker film. I got a kick out of that. It's not the first time that Rey Mysterio's had some type of movie-themed gear. Right off the bat, Rey Mysterio, he gets the lead pipe out. I'm instantly bored. I instantly don't give a shit. So Dominic gets involved. Couple low blows. Dominic gets a frog splash, and then follow that up by a frog splash by Rey Mysterio. No finish. Block does typical Block shit. He retains. Again, more typical Blockhead bullshit, and I'm done with it. Moving on. So then you get what ended up being the final match of the night. And I find it interesting that this match was the final match of the show. I'm not really sure why, no particular reason. I just found it interesting that this is the match that they end the show with. We have the women's triple threat, Raw Women's Champ, Becky Lynch, SmackDown Women's Champ, Bayley, NXT Women's Champ, Shayna Baszler. I've seen a little clip or so of Bayley with the new look and the attitude. This is the first time I've actually watched a match from her since this reinvention, this change in character from Bayley. I'm not 100% sold on it yet. Hopefully they can do a little bit more with that, and I'll care a little more. Essentially, at first, I was not a fan of Shayna Baszler, but she's grown on me a bit, and I am going to sit here and say that with the four horsewomen, because I hate that. I hate it so much. With that whole thing, and you got the two lackeys for Shayna, which those two, I don't even know their names, don't give a shit. I don't ever care to see them again. I've seen them in one tag match one time, and they bored the shit out of me. I don't ever want to see them again either. But then, obviously, Rhonda Rousey is in this whole thing, right? And I could give a damn less if I ever see Rhonda Rousey ever again, because the run that she had, it made me sick. I hated every last second of it. So I'm going to go out on this limb here, and I'm going to stand by this statement where I am going to say that Shayna Baszler is 100 times better than Rhonda will ever be. I think that Rhonda was there based on her name. I think she was pushed into a position that she was not ready for, may never be ready for. I don't think that she has adapted to the wrestling. That's a whole nother topic for another day. The only reason that's relevant is I believe Shayna has. I think that the Queen of Spades, I think her in-ring work is very good. I haven't heard like a lot of promo type stuff from her, so I don't really know if she, how her talking game is necessarily. But from what I have seen of Shayna, I think she's head and shoulders above the other two lackeys and Rhonda, and so I can get behind Shayna. I don't mind watching Shayna Baszler. Mentioning Rhonda, the commentators, try to put over Rhonda even though she hasn't been seen since WrestleMania. She's not around, but they're still trying to put Rhonda over anyways. My only question is, who the fuck truly cares? Certainly not this guy. First thing that I recollect that I wrote down is there was this spot in the corner, and I believe it was Shayna. It was Bayley trying to do something. And I don't know exactly what happened. It looked like a serious botch to me, because I can't, for the life of me, figure out what the hell this maneuver was supposed to be. But there's some thing in the corner, and what the hell was that? There was at one point where Becky intercepted one of the ladies, and it seemed like, watching that, it seemed like the timing was off. It almost seemed like there was, and I believe it was Shayna, almost had to almost like stop and like stutter step in order for Becky to get in position in order to do this. I don't know if I remember, it was clothesline, tackle, drop kick, whatever the hell, don't care. But it just seemed like the timing was off. So already within the first few minutes of this match, it seemed like everything was off. It didn't seem like things were flowing very well at all. Bayley was showing the heel side a little bit, which I can get behind. Apparently she's got this thing where, she feels like she's been overlooked, and it's all about her now, and I can get behind that. I've been a fan of Bayley since she was in NXT, and I think she has been overshadowed. I think that she's never been used to her full potential. So I want to see this reinvention of Bayley succeed. I want to see something happen there. So she's yelling at the crowd. She's telling them, shut up. She's
putting some heel stuff in there, and okay, I want to see some more of that. I want to see where that goes. The match to me, besides the fact that I have to be 5.5 hours into this damn show at this point, the match seemed a bit slow. It seemed like they were really stretching it, which they didn't need to, because the show had already been too long. Every single damn match has been too long. So they if they were trying to pace themselves, they could have sped it up a little bit. That's a personal nitpick, in my opinion. One of the main things, and I know I just tried to put over Bayley a little bit, but this is one thing that I feel about Bayley, and I've always kind of felt this way, that her arsenal of maneuvers is lacking, for lack of a better term. It feels a little bland. I don't feel like she has a whole lot in her arsenal to showcase. Maybe that's just me, but it feels like it just seems like she doesn't have a lot to do. So I'd like to see a little bit of expansion in the moveset. Like every other match, because partially because it was slow, and partly because it was taking forever, like everything else. It was slow, and so I was truly getting bored with this match. This one was at this point, after watching so much of this show, I'm getting bored, and I just can't wait for it to end. I want it to be done and over with. I couldn't just I don't know. Shayna had this small looking power bomb thing onto the announcer's table, and it might just be because Shayna isn't extremely tall, at least not like some of the guys where they could really get some height for the power bomb. Seemed like Becky was maybe this far off the table at the top of the at the most height, so it didn't look really all that spectacular. Essentially, Bayley gets back into this match. They do a little bit more, and finally, Shayna Baszler taps out Bayley for the win. NXT goes over yet again. I think that they're building up Shayna right. I think that they're pushing her very well. And again, I think Shayna looks like she belongs there. Becky, she has belonged there. They pushed her to the moon. And, she's just one of the top ones. I felt in this match that Bayley didn't quite belong. And I don't know if this is because of the character change. I don't never really felt like they've utilized Bayley properly anyways. I've never quite seen her as one of the top women on their roster. To me, Bayley seemed a bit out of place here. And so it really wasn't, whether it was going to be Becky that won this match or Shayna who won this match, I felt it was going to be either one of the two, because I felt that Bayley had no chance. I felt that Bayley had no chance of winning this match, and I felt that whoever won, it was going to be at Bayley's expense, and that's exactly what happened. Once Shayna wins, she tries to gloat a little bit. She gets cut off by Becky, and we get a leg drop off the security railing through the table. Becky stands tall even though she didn't win the match. So because Shayna won the match and because Becky stands tall at the end, then Bayley really seemed out of place. She really, she talks about, as far as her character and, whatever else, like she's being overshadowed. Well, it was definitely the case here. So that brings Survivor Series 2019 to a close, and the final score, because they were keeping score, Raw, which I think Raw last year, maybe it was the year before,
but Raw completely like shut out SmackDown. Maybe they won one, or maybe they didn't win any, but Raw was just so dominant, and they were shut down in this Survivor Series. SmackDown wins 2, and NXT wins 4. So, I've said it before. I only mention it here slightly. I understand what they're doing, trying to push NXT as this, as this big deal because of this ratings thing with AEW. I don't necessarily think that they needed to have as big of a shutout, blowout as what they did here. Certainly, I guess it made a bunch of them look good. So, just because of, the situation, NXT just looks like they completely mowed over everybody in the main roster for the most part. And, I don't know if I can necessarily agree with that. So NXT wins the night. They've been put on their pedestal. Really, really hoping that they can separate themselves going forward, separate the 3 brands again, because I understand that leading up to Survivor Series, there was a lot of invasions between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I think all that does is, hurt your talent pool in the end, because you have multiple people you have some people hogging a bunch of the spotlight in multiple spots on multiple shows. So a lot of people don't get the chance. So I really think that if they continue that route, that's going to hurt them in the end. So hopefully they split it back up now that Survivor Series is done and over with. Thank God that it's over. I really wish that they would reduce these shows by a little bit, and they could have done all of this if every match didn't have to last 100 years. They could have done several of these matches in less time, and therefore reduce the length of the overall show. Therefore, I could have maybe stayed a little bit more invested. By the time the main event, the triple threat women's match came along, not only did I felt that it wasn't quite on par with some of the other things, I felt that it was a little botchy, it was slow, it's just, I don't feel like that should have closed the show, for one thing, but I was personally burnt out by the time it was all said and done, and feeling like with a lackluster main event, on top of the fact that I really couldn't care anymore, I just wanted to be done and over with, wasn't exactly the way I would have liked the show to have ended, but nevertheless, that just seems like that's typical of the product nowadays. It's got to be a damn marathon. So with that being said, that is Survivor Series 2019. Thanks for tuning in. Comment below. Let me know what you think about Survivor Series 2019. If you share some of my opinions and feelings on either the whole show or either just parts of it or whatever, or if you disagree, I want to hear your comments. I want to hear what you think. So with that being said, now that that's finally over, we can look into something else at some other point, and I can finally forget about this and move on. So once again, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you don't miss anything. And you can also find the Furious Wrestling Fan on Facebook, where I will have, at least the plan is to have a little bit more like updates and like just some things that I'm thinking or feeling or whatever at the time. Those will be uploaded there instead of having full-fledged videos for some things, if I felt that it wouldn't take an entire video. So I plan on putting a bunch of stuff on the Facebook page, so you can find and follow the Furious Wrestling Fan on Facebook, and once again, subscribe to the channel. So until we jump in the ring again, guys, and there's something else to piss me off, I am the Furious Wrestling Fan, and we'll see you next time.